This is the Tossed Triangles quilt, and the instructions can be downloaded from my blog, and the link is in the description below the video. This is a really easy quilt to make, and it goes pretty fast. I think the cutting takes longer than the sewing, the actual piecing. So let's get right to it. So the quilt finishes at 72 inches by 96 inches. And I'm just going to go through the instructions because it's really easy. The blocks finish at 6 inches, and there are 130 blocks in the quilt. And you set them 10 across and 13 down. This is one of the blocks. This block didn't make it into the quilt because the fabric in the background was way too big. The print is too big, and it sort of disguised the triangle here, even though the color contrast is good. So if you get two fabrics that really contrast well, and they don't have to read solid, but the prints have to be smaller, and they can be solid too in the background. Just make sure you have a really good contrast. Here's the one I'm going to demo. So you have a really good contrast here of the light and dark. So this is a better choice than this is. I'm going to give you instructions on here for rotary cutting and for AccuQuilt cutting, and you'll need the same piece of fabric. If you have an 8.5 inch wide by 16.5 inches long, and you have two of those fabrics, a light and a dark, you can put those together, cut them together, and that will make 4 blocks. If you have fat quarters, and I didn't use fat quarters because I wanted to go into my scraps and use those. But if you have fat quarters, you can get 8 blocks from 2 fat quarters. And so just double up on that in the cutting. Here are the pieces we're going to cut for this block. This was cut with the AccuQuilt, so we've cut triangle pieces, and for the AccuQuilt you'll sew 2 pieces together to get your half square triangle. For the rotary cutting, this will already be a sewn half square triangle because you're going to sew that together. And then you watch your placement of your accent triangle. It goes here in the center, where this corner here is in the center of the block. It's easy to get them moved around. You don't want them like this. Then you won't get the look we're looking for the tossed triangles. And then next is a square and then a rectangle at the bottom. And so these pieces will make a 6 inch finished square. This is the chart for rotary cutting, and they're labeled A, B, and C, and this down here tells you what sizes to cut and what shapes. Now this piece A is going to be for your half square triangles, and it says to cut it at 3 7/8 inches. You're going to use the method of piecing 2 triangles at a time, and this 3 7/8 inch square will get you exactly the size you need. If you're the type of person who wants to cut it bigger and then trim it down later, then just cut these A sizes to 4 inches square. Then you can trim them down later. And then the B's are the rectangles and the C's are the squares. Next, it has instructions of how to make 2 half square triangles at the same time. On the top of page 2 is the cutting chart for the AccuQuilt cutting, and you have 3 different dies you can use. Section A is a 7 inch square, and you're going to place it on die 55724, which is 2 rectangles that are cut 3.5 inches by 6.5 inches. And you'll just take your 7 inch square and put it on your die and cut your 2 rectangles. The next one, B, is a 4 inch by 8 inch rectangle, and this is for the squares. And there is the die number 55701. For this one, you're going to fold this rectangle in half, so you get 2 pieces at 4 by 4, and you'll place that on the die, and you'll cut 2 squares at the same time. And the same thing you're going to do with your C section. It's a 5 inch by 8 inch rectangle. You're going to fold it in half, because on this die, which is 55703, it will cut 2 triangle pieces at once. So when you fold it in half, you will get 4 of these pieces. So that is the cutting chart for the AccuQuilt. Next, you're going to assemble all of your blocks, and you're going to use 1 half square triangle, 1 square, and 1 rectangle. And the most important thing here is the placement of this accent triangle here. You want it facing to the inside of the block. So I would sew my half square triangle to my square first, and then press towards the square. Then sew these pieces to the rectangle and press toward the rectangle. And you'll find that if you press in this direction, when you're sewing the blocks together and then sewing the rows together later, they'll nest really nicely. After you have done your 4 blocks, you'll have 2 with the light background and 2 with the dark background. And if you've used fat quarters, you'll have 4 of each. Next, we're going to assemble the top. We're going to sew 10 blocks together to make a row. And we're going to alternate the position of the half square triangle as shown. For the odd number rows, you're going to put the triangle first in the upper left, then the lower left, upper left, lower left, and all the way down until you have your 10 blocks. And these will go in the odd number rows. The even number rows, you're going to start in the upper right, then the lower right, upper right, and lower right, and all the way down. So you'll have 7 odd number rows and 6 even number rows. Then you just sew those together and your quilt top is finished. Thank you for watching.